This is the video of Intrepid's inaugural Rwanda gorilla naming ceremony and Uganda trip in September 2023. We were all smiling at the end of the trip. What made us smile? Well, you'll have to come along and see. I'm Roger, and with my wife Maya, this is our 8th Intrepid trip. We love their travel style with small groups and staying in reasonable but affordable accommodation. We met up in the OMX Hotel in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, to find out who our fellow travellers were. We had Liz, Sue, Wayne and Julie from the UK, Anne, originally from Germany but living in London, Tiffany and Susan from New York. Susan was assigned as the photojournalist by Intrepid to cover the trip, as it was the first of a new itinerary for Intrepid, incorporating the annual baby gorilla naming ceremony. Abdul was our group leader, with David as the driver of the second vehicle. After introductions at the hotel, we went to the Repub Lounge for dinner for our first meal together. Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, is a modern large city, 1.7 million people, with plenty of traffic and the cleanest streets we have seen anywhere. We had arrived a day earlier and had a short time to have a look around, visiting a local market and taking a trip by taxi to a local art gallery. The Intrepid itinerary had us finishing in Kigali with a local tour, so more on that later. We had a 5:30 a.m. start in the morning to travel to Musanze for the naming ceremony. We stopped for breakfast in Musanze, then headed a short distance to the Kwita Izina ceremony venue. Intrepid had organised us to be seated in the VIP guest area, which was covered from the hot sun and later on a shower of rain. Still, nothing could put a damper on the atmosphere, where crowds of locals were singing and dancing. A giant cane gorilla family formed the stage backdrop as the formal festivities began. The distinguished guests who named the baby gorillas arrived and included actor Idris Elba and his wife Sabrina, who got a rapturous welcome. Colourful dancers and singers entertained before the formal naming took place.
The name I give my baby gorilla is Impundu, which means...
And I was reminded that the gorillas not only represent the strength and beauty of Rwanda, but they represent the strength and beauty of Africa.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Beautiful conservation is life indeed, and that's why we are here today. Thank you very much for joining us.
We all enjoyed being part of a wonderful celebration, and the atmosphere of goodwill was infectious. Great fun. The next day we had a long drive ahead to the Queen Elizabeth National Park in Uganda. It was an early start to get to the border crossing before the public buses to beat the queues. Everything went relatively smoothly at the border, except for an extra visa required for one of our party, but it was sorted by our trip leader. Some money changes were of course on hand, so we could get some Ugandan shillings. Rwanda is known as the land of 1,000 hills, and they continued for a fair distance into Uganda as we found our way through the mountains. Some great views of the countryside. We passed numerous roadside ovens en route, used for firing bricks for the local area. One aspect of the drive was not so pleasant. Judabars, speed humps, whatever you want to call them, they occurred before and after every small village. While certainly effective in slowing down traffic, they became wearisome. For those with bank cards, we stopped in Kigali at a cash machine before continuing the long drive north.
Hatuna boda to Kigali City, Rwanda.
Finally, we dropped down to the savannah of the Queen Elizabeth National Park and arrived for a mid-afternoon lunch at our accommodation. We had a chance to stretch our legs and relax with a great view out over the Kazinga Channel. A short afternoon rainstorm passed, cooling the temperature nicely. We had a boat trip down the Kazinga Channel booked, so headed over the bridge to the jetty. The Kazinga Channel in Uganda is a wide, 32-kilometre long natural channel that links Lake Edward and Lake George. The channel attracts a varied range of animals and birds, boasting one of the world's largest concentration of hippos and numerous Nile crocodiles. This was a chance to get my long lens in action. We had a lot to pack into one day, with the game drive also scheduled. As it was getting close to sunset, we headed straight from the boat into the Queen Elizabeth National Park. Our first encounter was a lone elephant close to the road. As luck would have it, we came across a group of lions who were very sleepy after eating a recent kill. Even though it was a bit crowded with safari vehicles, one lion crossed right in front of us, heading back to the kill. Darkness descended quickly, and we returned to our lodge for dinner. That night, Maya was woken by a hippopotamus feeding right outside our unit window. Apparently, they often wander in at night. In the morning, we got a nice sunrise, and it was back on another game drive. The morning light was quite special, with a warm glow to the countryside. The lions were in the same place, too full to move. We headed on to a local tribe's outdoor shop situated high above a lake where salt is harvested.
This one is
You'll see on his face,
No.
and the facial reaction says it's salt.
salt, okay?
Liz was of course attracted to local masks and treasures and increased the weight of her return journey. Our trip then took a turn to the south, driving through the southern sector of Queen Elizabeth National Park to our next accommodation in Jojo Lodge in Ishasha. There was plenty of opportunity for animal spotting on the way. We arrived at lovely Jojo Lodge with a tropical downpour just as we had lunch. No mind, our rooms were lovely and we had a chance for a short rest. One good thing about Intrepid is that they get you involved with the locals where they can. Later in the afternoon we set off to a local family to learn how they were tackling keeping elephants away from their crops as they lived on the border of the national park.
I am a farmer, a herbalist, and I do crafts. I would like to share with you some of the solutions which me and the community use to protect our crops from wild animals. During the night, the bush pigs come from the national park coming to eat cassava, maize, and ground nuts. I built this hut here to stay inside every night. When you miss, you can find the whole garden being destroyed by the animals. Really? When the bush pigs are coming, they come making noise. When I hear the noise, I wake up. This trench was started by the community initiative.
But the biggest accomplishment was the construction of an elephant-proof trench, which was wider and deeper than an elephant trunk. It stretched for 20 kilometres, an enormous undertaking for a small village, and quite simply mind-boggling. It was then back to the lodge via a national park track.
Oh, look, I came and found a bunch of tourists. Look at them all. They're looking at you.
We stopped by the river at the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Rather difficult to cross with fast-flowing water, with hippos and no doubt crocs. We returned on dark for dinner and drinks. By this stage of the trip, we were ready for a 2-night stay at the same lodge. But not quite yet. Onward with another early start to get to our accommodation near the Bwindi Impenetrable forest and our gorilla trip. It was there that we would get 2 nights in a row. The drive from Ishasha was gorgeous, with the sun rising and getting a view out over the plains. Some of those iconic sights with the acacia tree against the glowing horizon. We drove through the edges of the Bwindi Impenetrable forest, and we climbed to a maximum height of 2,500 metres, where oxygen levels had dropped by 25% compared to sea level. Sitting in a car it was not noticeable, but probably a different story trekking for gorillas.
Stopped in the forest choosing the lunch menu. We're all for sandwiches today.
Abdul phoned our lunch choices ahead to our lodge so that it would be ready on our arrival.
Finally made it at the end of a long, gusty, bouncy road. But on the other side is that.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
We had 2 gorilla doctors visit us in the evening to give us a fascinating insight into their work helping the gorillas, and learnt that the gorilla population is increasing at around 2% per year. Good news indeed. We started out early with an hour-and-a-half drive to the Rushaga gorilla camp. Here we had a welcome ceremony and instructions on the do's and don'ts for our forest trek, as well as confirming our trekking permits.
And I really thank you so much for having chosen the one and only home of the ultimate mountain gorillas, Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. Thank you for choosing Uganda.
The group with the long poles. The start of the track. is down there, into the impenetrable forest.
I was suffering from asthma, and with the high altitude of over 2,000 metres, I wasn't able to climb hills. This meant that to be able to go on the trek, I needed help of a team of porters to carry me on a chair, locally known as an African helicopter. The rest of the group were very happy with this arrangement, as it meant we were assigned to the closest gorilla family, and our trip was only 3/4 of an hour into the forest. I did feel a bit guilty being carried, but the porters rotated around, and I walked down the hills further in. It was a wonderful perch to film from, so I got some footage of the trek in. It also supported the locals with money flowing back to them. All in all, a win-win situation.
Hard work. Long line.
Interact with them. So without wasting more time, if we are ready.
All of a sudden, we were there, almost before I could get my camera ready.
Jeff, you take a picture.
Jonas. Jonas.
I don't know, I don't think so.
One month old. Under her arm, here, under her right arm. Oh my God.
All too soon, our hour with the gorillas was up. Wow, what a wonderful experience. Amazing how they were so relaxed in our presence. I loved how the young gorilla sat in the fork of the tree, so relaxed.
The mum's gone.
Still, the silverback was my favourite. So wide and huge. Wonderful.
Oh, go boys, go.
Soon we were back, and time for a group photo with all my porters. Well done, I say. Maya's porter was also very helpful, particularly with her damaged wrist. We stopped in the local village to get some souvenirs. There were some great masks, and I bought a walking stick, a gorilla mask, and a small gorilla from one of my porter's shop. Soon it started raining, so we headed back along the waterlogged road to our lodge, hardly believing our luck in having a dry gorilla trek. It would have been so much harder in the rain getting good photographs. Back in the lodge, we had fun comparing our photos and saw how close the silverback had come to Wayne and Susan. Amazing experience. We were all buzzing after such an exciting day. The next morning, we headed towards Rwanda.
Finally, after 2,000 kilometres, the vehicle has run low on diesel. And now, we're going to get some more.
Our vehicle had 2 tanks, and it had also done 480,000 kilometres. Toyota Land Cruisers are great vehicles. We crossed the border back into Rwanda, this time all done smoothly. We swapped to the right-hand side of the road and passed all the usual goods being transported by bicycle as we made our way to Lake Kivu and the Paradise Malahide Hotel on the lake's edge. It was a bit like arriving on a tropical island.
There we go. We're in the tropics.
After lunch, we had a boat ride across the lake to a small island. and went ashore to practice our photography skills. We also ventured out towards the DRC border, an imaginary line in the water. That evening we had some fireside entertainment from a group of local dancers. The next morning we travelled back to Kigali. And had a farewell picture taken with our group as Abdul and David were leaving to travel back to Uganda. Now you know why we had the big smiles after such a wonderful experience, all capably handled by our very experienced group leaders. The Intrepid itinerary had a city tour in the afternoon, hosted by their local guide. It included a visit to the Genocide Memorial, a city walk, and a visit to a local market. We finished our trip in style, heading back to the Republic Lounge for a farewell dinner.